All right, what's up out there to all of my fellow gold diggers? This is your girl Rita, also known as the self-proclaimed gold digger. If this is your first time to my channel, welcome. I am so glad to have you. But if you are a fellow gold digger, welcome back. Y'all know I love and I appreciate each and every one of you. And today, this is Side Hustle Saturday, and I am going to be sharing some more side hustle secrets, side hustle strategies. This is going to be a continuation from Tipsy Tuesday. So if you haven't checked out that particular video, check out Tipsy Tuesday that I just did this past Tuesday, where I was sharing some side hustle tips as well. Now, before we get into it, let me do my social media checks to make sure I am good on all ends. And then I have a couple of church announcements, and then we'll get started. So I hope everyone is having a great weekend, that things are going well for you so far. Let me see. All right, so I am good there. And then let me check one other spot, y'all. And we're going to get started. And y'all know I have shared with you guys that I have done several different side hustles. More so, y'all know me for doing my mystery shopping as well as for doing my notary stuff. The side hustle tips, though, that I share with you guys, they can be applied to pretty much any side hustle that you want to get into. Okay, so that's what we're going to be talking about today. And I see, what's up, Still Rocks? I see you joining. I haven't seen you in a while. I guess you probably have been hustling. You probably have been busy, but good to see you as always. All right, so a couple of quick church announcements, y'all. We are still doing the Gold Digger Book Club. I know last month it was kind of, I hadn't done what I was supposed to do. So we are still reading Kevin Hart's book, I Can't Make This Up. We will do a review of it, or I will do a review of it at the end of this month. We are supposed to do it in February, but we'll do it at the end of March. So if you haven't already gotten that book, please be sure to check it out. I'm also going to do a goal planning session on tomorrow, Sunday. I'm not sure what time. It's probably going to be around 7 or 8. So you will get another live video from me then. And of course, as always, on Tuesday, we will have another Tipsy Tuesday. I haven't decided on the topic for that yet. I guess it just depends on how things go today. Okay. So on Tipsy Tuesday, and I think, oh, hold on. I'm sorry. I always forget y'all. I got to shout y'all out, show y'all some love. If you like the video, you're enjoying the content, please be sure to subscribe to my channel, share it with a friend. And I want to say thank you to all the new gold diggers that are part of the Gold Digger fam, because y'all know your girl got to 5,000 subscribers last month, and it's all thanks to you. So I really and truly appreciate it. Okay. So also for Side Hustle Saturday, I also forgot this. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. I was reminded of it once I started dancing. We have a Side Hustle Saturday theme song. So let me go ahead and do the Side Hustle Saturday song. And then I'm going to get into these tips for y'all, okay? It's Side Hustle Saturday, Side Hustle Saturday. Ooh, it's Saturday. Ooh, it's Saturday. It's Side Hustle Saturday. All right. So let's go ahead and get into it, because I am not trying to be on here too long, okay? Real quick, I know I told y'all I did a I shared with y'all 5 tips on Tipsy Tuesday. There were 2 kind of like tips that I gave at the beginning that were not part of the 5 that I want to make sure I emphasize with you and kind of highlight as well. I shared with you guys before, or I've had other side hustle videos where I highly, highly, highly recommend that y'all get a side hustle in this season of time, in 2025, just because of all the things that are going on. Nobody's job is really secure, and it's a good way just to get some extra money. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, but get some extra income for yourself, for your family, or for whoever, if you want to take a trip, vacation, that kind of thing. It's just good. It's just good to have a backup plan. But what I said is, when deciding your side hustle, you need to decide why you're getting that side hustle, because depending on your why, that might help determine, or it probably will help determine the side hustle you choose. So I shared on Tipsy Tuesday that if you need a side hustle because you are coming up short each month, then you don't want to do a side hustle where it might take a little bit of time before you start seeing the money. And when I say take a little bit of time, meaning that it might take a few months before you start like really generating money. If you need money ASAP, then you need to look into side hustles that are like gig jobs. And that's like, doing DoorDash, Instacart, maybe picking up another shift or picking up a job, a part-time job or something like that as a side hustle, and not trying to be, so much of a solo entrepreneur. Because as an entrepreneur, it's going to take a little bit of time before you start generating money. And also I said this too, because oftentimes when you go look at, hey, what's the best side hustles to start? And let's say if you just Google what's the best side hustles to start in 2025, usually they're always going to have like virtual assistant. They're always going to have like write a blog post. They're always going to say start a YouTube channel or something like that. And those kinds of things, yes, you can make money, but it definitely takes time, especially if you don't already have an audience for your blog post or you don't already have clients. So those kinds of side hustles, you have to be the one to attract your customer or attract your client. So if you need money immediately, don't do a side hustle where you are totally responsible for generating your clients or your customers. You want to do a side hustle where the client base is already built in, and jobs such as like Instacart and DoorDash or just working for another company part-time, their customer base is already built in and you don't have to generate the customer for yourself. So that's why I say you need to make sure what your why is. Also, I had shared, make sure, even though we do the side hustle because we need extra money, stop chasing these side hustles because of the money. Because a lot of you guys will follow up behind somebody or try and do something because they have promised you that you're going to make $10,000 in a week. Okay. and it don't look like that for you. And so then you get discouraged and then you get disappointed. So don't just choose the side hustle because they're saying that you're making a lot of money. You really need to look at your why and be like, am I going to be able to sustain myself, or can I see myself doing this side hustle long term? And if things don't work out like it's supposed to, are you still willing to put in the effort? Are you still willing to put in the work in order to keep pursuing that side hustle? And I used an example for myself of me being a notary when I first started in the notary business. The particular avenue that I pursued, I didn't see money that way, or I didn't see as much money as I wanted to. And I said that that's not to say that you can't make money that particular way, but I had to find another way that was best for my lifestyle, for my schedule as a notary to be able to make money. Okay. So just bear that in mind. The way you might see yourself making money in a side hustle, it might change. You might have to still find a different way to do it. And if you're really committed to sticking with the side hustle, you need to stick around long enough to figure out what way can I be able to make money when it didn't look like this particular way that I thought it was going to be. Okay. So I go more in depth though on Sipsy Tuesday. So like I said, be sure to check out that video. Okay. And see what the first 5 tips were. All right. Let me see. I see Still Rocks. He says, I've been MIA. I know. It's okay, Still Rocks. As long as you're here, you're good. It's fine. All right. Now, before I get into the last 5 tips too, something had came to me in between Tuesday and now that I also wanted to share with you. And it was sparked because of a conversation I just recently had with one of my patients. And I'll share that story with you guys too. But this is going to be a bonus tip for you. When you are starting your side hustle, you are essentially an entrepreneur. And if you are used to working for someone else, then you have what I call, or what a lot of people call, an employee mindset, and not necessarily an entrepreneur mindset, or an entrepreneur mindset of someone who is used to being an employer or someone who's used to being a boss. And there is a shift that you have to make when you are pursuing your own business or trying to start your own business or trying to start your own side hustle. You have to make that shift. The sooner you can make that shift, and when I say sooner, the more, what I mean by that is the quicker you realize that you need to make that shift. Now, you're going to continue to grow, you're going to continue to learn, but the quicker you realize that and the quicker you learn that lesson or start learning that lesson, the easier it's going to be for you in the entrepreneurial world. And that's because you'll start realizing, oh, that's where I made a mistake. Oh, that's where I need to switch it up. That's what I need to do a little bit differently. But if you have that employee mindset, it's gonna take a little bit longer for you to transition. Now, what do I mean by that? Just like at the beginning of the video, I told you, like, if you need money now, then you need to do like gig work where there's already a customer base built in there and you're not the one attracting the customer. That is part of the mindset shift that you have to make when you become an entrepreneur or when you become an employer. You have to attract your own customers. You have to attract your own clients. And attracting your clients means that you have to start thinking outside of the box. That also means that you are going to have to do marketing in order to see where your customers are, what kind of things that they like, what kind of price point can you push upon them that they're willing to buy whatever product or service that you are selling. So it's not just that you have to attract your customer, you have to attract the right customer. You have to attract the customer that is going to be ideal for you. And oftentimes, a lot of us go after everybody, thinking that everybody is our client, thinking that everybody is our customer. And in general, yes, everybody could be your client, everybody could be your customer. But the real question is, are they your ideal client? Are they your ideal customer? Are they the ideal person that you want to service? And as an entrepreneur, you have to know that. So you're not just wasting your time trying to get, maybe I use this example, friends and family to buy whatever you're offering, and they're not even your ideal client or ideal person that you need to be selling to or that you need to be marketing to. So you have to be able to market your product or service to your consumer. And what that entails is knowing who your consumer is. Okay. So that means you have to do a little research. You have to start doing a little bit of digging and not just say, oh, well, I made some ads, or I passed out business cards, or I passed out flyers, or I told so-and-so about my business and think that's going to be enough. Especially if if your product is something that mainly, people who are in their 30s or 40s would buy, but here you are marketing it at your church, and your church got people 50 and up. Like, you have to know where your clients and your customers are so that you can be able and be willing to attract them or get them willing to buy for you. So that is part of the mindset shift that you have to make when you become an entrepreneur. Oftentimes people think, and myself included, like the business is just going to naturally come. It's not going to just naturally come. If it does for you, then that's great. You're blessed, but it doesn't typically happen that way. You have to be strategic about who my customer is, who my client is, and where do they hang out? What social media platforms are they on? What kind of things do they like to consume? What places do they go to, so that I can reach out to them and be able to be in their circle so that they'll know about my product, they'll know about my service, or I know the struggles that they have, or I know the things or the problems that they go through, and I can use those problems or those struggles to say, hey, this is how my product can benefit you, or this is how my product can enhance your life, whatever it may be. Even if your product is a candle, if you're trying to market to, busy women who are working, 9 to 5 and working overtime, you can still market a candle and be like, hey, my candle offers relaxation for that busy woman who doesn't have time to take time for herself or something like that. But you have to know your product as well as you have to know your customer and your client and know what their lifestyle is like and what they would be attracted to and the problems that you have, and tap into those problems to show how your product or your service can solve that problem. Okay. So you're definitely using your brain a lot differently, because not only do you have to deliver on the product or service, you also are having to engineer or start thinking about the thought patterns of your ideal client. Okay. You have to try and imagine, hey, what would my ideal client who would use my product or who would use my service, what do they look like? How would they feel? How do they act? Where do they go? What do they like to eat? What kind of car would they drive? You got to start thinking about all these kinds of things to try and know how to attract that client. That way you're not fishing in an empty pond, okay? You are actually fishing in a pond that's full of the people that you want and that who also want your product or your service. So that's what I mean by making that shift from having an employee to an employer mindset, or from an employee mindset to an entrepreneur mindset. The other thing, y'all, and I'm gonna step on some toes as well with this one, you also have to make that shift from being an employer, I keep saying it wrong, from being an employee to an entrepreneur when it comes to your money. What I mean by that. Okay, so I'm going to share with you guys. I don't know if I shared this before because I don't talk about it too often, but my husband, he sells Avon. He is an Avon representative. He's been doing it for a while. He's very successful with it. That's how we're able to go on some of our vacations and things of that nature. He's actually number one in our state in terms of selling. But over the course of time, we've seen people, he's seen people, we know people who have started, and I don't want to get into a discussion about, what is it called? MLM companies and stuff like that. Because I know how some people are totally against them and stuff like that. But we know people who have sold Avon. They have sold, Mary Kay. They sold those knives, whatever. They sold the, paparazzi jewelry, that kind of thing. Those kinds of businesses. And inevitably, what will happen is a lot of those people, or some of those people who get involved with these types of companies, they will sell the product, they will get their money, and then next thing you know, because he shares this with me, they can't purchase any more product, or their account gets shut down or it gets closed or whatever, because they're unable to purchase any more product, and they have an outstanding bill with whatever company that they were associated with. And the reason why is because, or I'm assuming the reason why, oftentimes is the reason why, is that you are not managing your money as someone who is an employer. You're not managing your money as someone who is an entrepreneur. So as an employee, when you made money, when you got your check, when you got paid, that was your check. So if your check was for $500 that you got for the week or whatever, or for every 2 weeks, you got $500, you knew you had $500 to spend. When it comes to being an entrepreneur, when it comes to being a business owner, if you got $500 for whatever you did, like let's say you did an event and you made $500, that $500 is not yours to spend, okay? It is not yours to spend. That $500 is going to either pay for the products that you might have already invested in. It's going to maybe be used to reinvest into the business. And then maybe you might take home $150 or $200. That's the money that you can actually spend for yourself, okay? And I see this happening even with people who are not like in Avon or Mary Kay and stuff like that. Because now, I've worked with people. You might work with someone and they're supposed to be delivering a service to you, and they're like, oh, I need this money or whatever. And they're supposed to buy certain things for you, but because they've already spent this other money, they don't even have enough money to buy the stuff that they need to do for the project that they're working on for you. So now they're like, oh, well, I need you to put down another, I won't say another deposit, but I need you, if you want this, then I need another $100 or something like that, because they've spent the money. So you have to manage your money as someone who is an entrepreneur. Just because you make $500 as a business owner, that doesn't mean you get to keep $500. It's not like your paycheck where you made $500 and that's all your money, okay? That's all your money that you can use however you like. When you make $500, and I'm using these numbers hypothetically, when you make $500 as an entrepreneur, you have to see, what do I need to reinvest into the business? And what can I actually use to take home? So because the business has bills, okay? The business has bills. Just like you have bills that you have to pay to take care of your household, when you start a business, when you start a side hustle or have a side hustle and stuff like that, your side hustle has bills as well that need to be paid. And so you can't just take all the money from it and not pay your bills, or forget that you have bills, or forget that, hey, I got to reinvest this money in order for me to go back out and be able to sell again, or to make this to make money at this particular event. Also, when I say your business has bills, do you have expenses when it comes to like marketing as well? Like, are you going to be spending money on marketing? Also, are you going to be spending money if you do an event for free or something like that, or you give out stuff or samples to attract clients? All of that is costing you money. So you need to look at it like, hey, do I have enough money, or can I invest enough money to be able to do this? And how much money am I going to start setting aside when it comes to marketing, when it comes to providing free products or free services, or using my time to go to different events and stuff? Like, how much of that am I willing to invest in order for my business to grow and to be able to succeed? So you have to think about all of those things. So that's what I mean. I know I've said it plenty of times before on different videos. Like, you have to make that mindset shift from being an employee to being an employer. But these are the things that I mean. It's so many different things that you have to think about as an entrepreneur, and you can't keep looking at it through the lens of an employee. Even though you are an employee of the business, ultimately your main title or your main role is being the entrepreneur, being that CEO of that business. And because that's your main title, you have to look at it through the lens of a CEO, even though you're also doing the job of an employee as well. Okay, so keep that in mind. All right, so now that I got that out of the way, let's see. I see I have one other comment. Michelle, I haven't seen you on here before. So welcome, Michelle. She says, morning. I'm glad you were able to join. All right, so I'm going to knock out these 5 tips for you really, really quickly. So let me see. So, and this is a continuation from Tipsy Tuesday. So technically this one is like number 6. So when you're having your side hustle, the tip that I have, 6 tip, or the number 1 tip that I'm going to share is that you need to network. What do I mean by network? I know oftentimes they say network, and you've heard the saying, your net worth is determined by your network. You need to get in the places and the spaces people who not only could benefit from your product or service, but also who can help you grow your product and service. So you need to get around people who are ahead of you in that particular industry, so you can see what you can learn from it, as well as network with people who could use your product and your service. Okay, sometimes I think when we say network, we think that we need to like sell stuff to people, and yes, that is a part of networking, but you also need to get around other people who can help your business as well. And you should also network with people who are, I won't say outside of your industry, but where you can still learn stuff. Because I find that I will look at people from different industries, even though like my main job as an optometrist, I'm looking at people in the optical industry, in the optometry industry, but I also look at people who are doing well in other industries as well. And by that, it helps me to think outside of the box, or to see what strategies are they using in other industries that I may be able to apply in my current industry. So I look at different areas. I don't just limit myself to optical or optometry or anything like that. I look at different stuff when it comes to, especially when it comes to like marketing or growing my customer base. I look at other places and try to get ideas from other places and see how I can apply that to what I'm doing. So don't just limit yourself to your industry. Yes, you should definitely be knowledgeable in your industry. You should definitely network within your industry as well, and network with people who are doing better than you, as well as people who need your product or your service. But also look outside of your industry and see what knowledge, what information can I glean, can I obtain, and how can I possibly use that in my industry. And not only how can you use it, also what problems are they having, what are they talking about, what are the issues that are arising in their industry. And that helps you to stay at the forefront too, to be like, oh, could this happen in my industry as well? Or how are they trying to tackle it in their industry? Or how are they trying to avoid this problem or this issue in their industry? And let's see, would I have something similar along those same lines in my industry that I need to look out for? So that's why I like looking outside of the box, just because it expands my purview on things and opens up my mind to new and different possibilities, as well as opportunities, as well as new ideas. It helps me to stay creative, I say, in just generating ideas. Because sometimes because someone is in your other industry, the way they think about stuff is often different than how you think about it. So it just gives you a different way to think about stuff that you might not have ever considered before. So that's why I always say I can learn something from anybody or everybody. And I say this all the time, because even with my patients, I see a lot of kids at my office. And so I had a couple of 6-year-olds and 7-year-olds just on yesterday. And I was like, y'all teach me something. And one of them did teach me something. He was talking about dinosaurs and all kinds of stuff, but made me feel real small. But but I can learn something from anybody. Okay. Oh, and I was going to tell y'all my story, but anyway, we're going to move along. All right. So that's the first thing for today. The second thing we have for today is make sure when you're starting your side hustle, you want to invest in yourself. What do I mean by this? Now, I also shared on Tipsy Tuesday, one of the tips I had was to use what you've got and to start small so that you're not overspending. So I don't want these two ideas to seem like they're contradicting themselves or anything like that, but I want you to invest in yourself. I see so many people who start off and they're not necessarily willing to invest in themselves. They're waiting for someone to tell them what to do. They're waiting for someone to give them all the instructions. They're waiting for someone to give them the full blueprint. And once again, that goes back to what I mentioned before, is switching that mindset from being an employee to being an employer or being an entrepreneur. Stop waiting for someone to give you your SOP. Stop waiting for someone to tell you need to do it X, Y, and Z, okay? Stop waiting and start doing some research on your own, and stop expecting people to give you that information for free. That really grinds my gears when it's like people expect you to give you all of their knowledge or give you everything for free. Like they're not willing to invest in themselves when it comes to learning it. And it's like, you think I got to be so great, or you think I got to be so successful or doing so well because I got a whole bunch of free information, or I let somebody else tell me all this stuff. No, I had to do stuff on my own. I had to research. I had to read stuff. I had to invest in myself and not just wait for someone else to tell me what to do. And I also valued the information that I got. Whether somebody gave me free information, I valued that. I took it for what it was. And if I realized that I needed more information from the free stuff, then I was willing to pay what I needed to pay in order to get it. And if I didn't have money to pay for it, guess what? That means I either have to save up the money or I have to do some more research on my own, whether it's reading a book, reading articles, Googling stuff or whatever, until I can gain that knowledge or be able to pay them for the knowledge that they have. But I'm willing to invest in myself. And that comes to not just investing when it comes to money, but willing to invest when it comes to time. So be willing to invest in yourself. Stop waiting for someone to tell you everything to do and stop expecting them to do it for you for free. If they do offer it for free, like if they do provide mentorship to you, then don't take it for granted. Like actually execute on the things that they're telling you to do. Actually do the things that they are suggesting for you to carry out so you can be successful in business. Same thing applies if you're paying for the mentorship or you're paying for the information. Don't just take it for granted. Like actually put the things to use so that you can excel and so that you can succeed. So, and then I'll share, let me see how we're doing on time. All right, I'll share with you really quickly. I was talking to one of my patients the other day. She works in a profession where I'm just going to say digital marketing just to make it simple or whatever. She works for a company and she does like their digital marketing. And I was like, girl, you can make a lot of, I said, you are in high demand. I said, you can make a lot of money doing that freelancing and everything. And she was like, you think so? And I'm like, I know so. And she jokingly said, so you think I can be a millionaire by the end of the year? And I was like, yes, you could be a millionaire by the end of the year. And I could tell that she was like doubting herself. And I gave her some suggestions. I was like, you should do this. You should check this out. And also do this. And then I told her about Fiverr. And I had to go do something. I had to go get something for her. So I told her, I said, well, while I'm getting this, I said, you go and look up on Fiverr and see how much you could make if you did this freelancing and everything. See the different prices. I said, because it usually will show you what people are charging for this particular service. So I left, I came back and I said, did you look it up? She was like, yeah. I said, so you think you're going to be you could be a millionaire by the end of the year? She was like, yeah. And so it's just amazing. And like I could tell when I first said it and when she first said she could be a millionaire, she was kind of joking. And I was like, girl, I don't think you really believe it. But I said, I'm dead serious. I think you can be a millionaire by the end of this year. I was like, I'm not playing around. I really think you can. And that's why I said, if you do this, this, and this, you could be a millionaire. And so by the time we finished with the exam, she had the belief and she was like, okay, I'm about to set up my Fiverr account. I'm about to do this. And I said, okay. And if you do make $1 million by the end of the year, I said, you got to let me know. So I can celebrate with you that you became a millionaire at the end of the year and everything. So we'll see how it goes. Hopefully she'll execute on that, but be willing to invest in yourself, change your mindset from that entrepreneur. Because also with the entrepreneur, we talked about the money. When you have that employee mindset, you're so used to someone dictating how much you're supposed to make. You're so used to someone telling you, oh, we'll pay you this for you doing this particular job. As an entrepreneur, you essentially set your price. Now, yes, there's a limit on what you can do in your market or whatever, depending on your expertise or your quality. But if you're really, really good, you could charge top dollar for stuff. Just like, Beyonce can charge whatever she wants for those tickets that she wants us to come to her concert and see. Now, Beyonce versus somebody else who's just starting out in the industry, they can't charge that. But if you are really good at what you're doing, you can even push the market and be able to put a premium price on the service that you provide or on the product that you provide, okay? But that mindset has to change. That mindset has to change. Stop letting someone else tell you your worth, okay? Stop letting someone else tell you this is what your value is or this is what you can charge, because that's when you're an employee, you're used to that. Oh, we're going to pay you $20 an hour for doing this particular job. Oh, you want to do a little bit above and beyond? Okay, we'll give you a $2 raise since you're doing a little bit more. But no, as an entrepreneur, you set your price, okay? Now, and that'll bring me to my last point too that I'll do later on. But the other thing, when it says comes to invest in yourself, so you're not wasting your money, please, I put test before you invest, okay? And what I mean by that is like test out your market. See, is this something that people, your client, your customer are interested in or would be willing to buy in your market? So don't invest all of this money creating this grand product or invest all this time creating, like, let's say you were creating this particular course or elaborate service and stuff like that, and you don't even know if people want all of that, because you will spend months designing, this particular service, or you might spend months designing this particular product, and you didn't even test it out and to see, is this something that people in your industry or your customers or your clients are looking for? So test before you invest. Ask people, and that goes back to knowing who your ideal client is. Ask them, if you had something like this, or if a product or a service was available that did XYZ, is this something that you would be interested in buying? Or my product is similar to this. What makes you buy this particular product? What makes it so great? If you could make it better, what would you change about it? So you need to ask questions, as well as and that goes back to the networking piece, being around people who would buy your product or service, to know what they need, know what they would like, as well as knowing what problems or issues or complaints they're having. Like, okay, I have this particular product, but every time I do this is what happens, and it only lasts for 2 months. It would be great if I could get it to at least last for 3 months or something like that, or we didn't have to do this with it or whatever. Start asking those necessary questions, so that when you create your product, or when you introduce your product to the market, you have something that kind of differentiates it from other people, but also addresses the issues and the wants and the concerns that they have. So think about that when it comes to creating your side hustle, whether it's a product or a service. So test before you invest, because I don't want you wasting a whole bunch of time creating something that nobody don't really want, okay? And then you get upset and you like, nobody don't support you. And it's not that nobody supports you, it's just that nobody really needs that, okay? And you didn't do the necessary homework to find out if this was something that people would need or want, okay? The fourth tip that I have for you is to create time for your side hustle. So you'll start a side hustle, but you haven't allocated time for you to do your side hustle. So just like your job gives you a schedule, whether it's you work from 9 to 5, or you work, I don't know, part-time hours, or you work Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at your job, whatever it is, your job gives you a schedule, and they tell you, hey, you're going to be working 20 hours a week, you're going to be working 30 hours a week, you're going to be working 40 hours a week. You need to do the same thing when it comes to your side hustle. You need to set a schedule. And once again, it goes from having that employee mindset to having a mindset of an entrepreneur. So you need to allocate time, like, hey, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, from 6 to 9 is the time that I have set aside to work on my side hustle. That is the time that I dedicated to it. And whatever it is, whether it's, marketing your side hustle, or coming up with a new product, or coming up with a new service, or responding to customers, or whatever it is, you need to set that time aside to work on it, because your side hustle isn't going to get done if you're not making time for it. And also, you won't see, one of the other things I shared on Tipsy Tuesday, one of the tips is you need to be consistent. So if you haven't set aside time, you won't see that consistency when it comes to your business. So take that into consideration when it comes to getting into a side hustle or creating a side hustle. Like, do I even have the time? And if you do have the time, what time are you allocating towards your side hustle? And treat it just like a schedule, like your regular work schedule, and abide by it, so that you can stay committed to yourself and help your side hustle to grow. All right. So create time for your side hustle. And if you realize, hey, I don't have time for like that. Like, y'all know, I've shared with y'all, I don't have a whole lot of time. Even with my notary business, I barely have, I say I want to do, 10 hours a month. That's all I really would like to dedicate to my side hustle. And some months I don't even have that. Okay. But if you realize, hey, I don't even have time for the side hustle, then you might want to look into like something that is more a passive side hustle, where you're not, actively involved on a regular basis or a day-to-day basis, or something that you have to continually follow up with or continually do. Look into something that is more passive, and that can still generate money. And sometimes some of that might be, creating digital products. So the digital products you create it one time and sell it, and then you can keep selling it because it's the same product. You're just selling it to different people. So look into passive streams of income. If you already know, I don't even have a lot of time for a side hustle or something like that, there's still ways you can make money. All right. And the last and final tip I have for you when it comes to having your side hustle and making sure your side hustle is successful, and that is to know your value. And I already touched upon this earlier when I was talking to you guys about switching your mindset from being an employee to being an entrepreneur, and stop letting people tell you what your worth is or what your value is. Know your value, know your worth, know what you bring to the table, know what you offer. But that also goes back to being self-aware, because we don't need no overconfident people or people who ego tripping and thinking you're the greatest thing or you have the greatest product. There's a difference between having self-confidence and just being cocky. Okay. There's a very fine line between that. Okay. So you want to know your worth. You want to be confident in what you're doing, not cocky in what you're doing. And that goes with being self-aware to know what value you bring to the table, and stop placing your value in other people or other things, or waiting for someone else to tell you your worth or to tell you your value. You should innately know that for yourself. You should know, hey, I know I have a good product. I know I need to find people who would support it or who would buy it, as well as I know my product could use some improvements. I need to go back to the drawing board and try and enhance that. Or I know my service could use some improvement. Or yes, I didn't do so well when it came to the customer service aspect in regards to X, Y, and Z, and I need to go back and remedy this so that I can be able to provide an exceptional product or an exceptional service and be able to charge this particular price because they're getting something that is of much value. Okay. So know your worth. Stop waiting for someone else to tell you what you're worth. Stop waiting for someone else to dictate that value. You have to know it for yourself. Okay. So those were the things I had. I hope that was helpful for you. And let me see. I do have a comment. All right, Michelle, she says, how do you market for the wedding industry as an officiant? So once again, Michelle, it just depends. It goes back to what kind of wedding officiant you want to be. And like I mentioned before, it's like knowing your ideal client and your customer and knowing where they kind of hang out. So I don't do these types of weddings, but let's say you want to be a wedding officiant where you're doing these big, huge weddings. If so, you need to go to the places where people are having big, huge weddings. I do more of the elopement types or the simple signing weddings and stuff like that. So depending on what type of wedding officiant you want to be, that determines what type of marketing you want to do. So how I would market if I wanted to do large services or like a large wedding is definitely different than the marketing I would do for somebody who's doing an elopement or a simple signing. So once you know who your customer is or who your ideal customer is, that's when you'll know where you need to market as well. Then that's why I say you need to know what direction you want to go into in order to do that. If you answer those questions, then you'll know which ones to market. So I'm not going to tell you how to market it because it could be very, very different depending on what type of officiant you want to be. Do you even know, Michelle, what type of officiant you want to be? And then maybe I can tell you. I don't know if you're still on. I'll give you a few minutes or a few moments or whatever before I hop off, since that was the last question. But yeah, based off of what type of officiant you want to be, that determines your marketing. And just to see if Michelle responds or not. That's kind of like with cars. Mercedes-Benz versus Toyota versus what is it? A Rolls-Royce. You never see them market or whatever. You don't see them advertising because the client that they're trying to attract is different. Same thing, marketing versus somebody marketing somebody who wants to drive a truck versus somebody who wants to drive a car versus somebody who is driving a minivan. If you look at those commercials for like a minivan or something like that versus a truck, each one of those commercials is different because they are appealing to their ideal customer. Most commercials with the truck, they're going over like rugged territory. They usually have a man in there. There's usually a man speaking or something like that. Versus if it was a minivan, they're showing a family and stuff like that. So the same thing applies when it comes to your marketing, when it comes to your side hustle or whatever. You need to know who you're marketing to. Who is your ideal customer? Because essentially that determines how you're going to market. Just like the minivan knows that they need to market to a family because it's going to be multiple people. And they usually show a bunch of kids and how it's convenient for the mom because this seat goes down or you have this hidden compartment and all this kind of stuff. All of that is part of their marketing to say, oh my gosh, this car, this minivan is so convenient. This would be, perfect for my large family. And, and I can easily clean up because the seats are like, resistant, stain resistant and all this kind of stuff. So they know that's what their ideal client is. But if they did that same thing for somebody who wants a truck, the person with the truck don't care if the seats might be stain resistant because they want something that's hardy and rugged and can go over hills and rocks and all that kind of stuff. So the commercial is going to be more geared to that and showcasing that. You're not going to see that minivan, going over a little bumpy hill or something like that. Even if it could. But so yes, figure out who your ideal client is going to be when it comes to your wedding officiant business. Like, what direction do you want to go into? And sometimes that means you're going to have to do more market research because you need to discover that, because everybody is not going to be trying to have big ceremonies. But if that is the direction you want to go, there's certain marketing you need to do for that. All right. So I hope that this has been helpful for everyone. The Side Hustle Saturday tips and strategies that I shared with you guys. And I hope to see y'all on Tuesday for Tipsy Tuesday. So enjoy the rest of your weekend and take care, guys.